The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Predictive AI World Forum. I'm your host, Malay Upadhyay, the Chief Customer Experience Officer at Sales Choice, and I'm joined here today by a panel of experts who are going to guide us through how to deliver value in order to survive today and thrive post-corona. I'm excited to see such a rich audience that we have with us today, spread out across 3 continents, ranging from half a dozen different industries, and consisting of both the C suite executives and leaders, as well as all other tiers that play such an important role in the growth of any organization. As they say, we are all in this together. So it is time to start off without further ado, trying to understand exactly what we can do to tackle the climate we are faced with today. So let me bring in Tone Derby in order to introduce the panelists and take us onward.
Thank you, Malay. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today as well from my end. My name is Ton Dobby. I'm the founder of a company called Value Inspiration and the author of a book that I recently published, The Remarkable Effect. And it's indeed a pleasure for me to have this conversation today, which is very topical. And of course, you can see that from the title. Surviving today is something that every organization is dealing with these days. But the most important question at the end is, how do you thrive post-corona? And that is a choice. You can panic and do nothing, or you can say, hey, there is an opportunity here. The world is changing. And as a consequence, this is an enormous possibility for us to step up and to come out stronger. And that's exactly the conversation we're going to have today with people that I got on this slide from various areas from around the world. As you can possibly hear, my accent is not from North America. I'm actually Dutch. Timothy Willis, who's the COO of a company called Aerobotics. He's from South Africa. And Aerobotics is a very cool company that is that's using drone technology and AI to help farmers in the tree crop industry to actually manage their farm from their office. Then there is Cindy Gordon, Dr. Cindy Gordon, who is the CEO and founder of a company called Sales Choice from Toronto. And Sales Choice is helping sales leaders from around the world with far better forecasting and helping their sales to be sniper focused in terms of who they should work with in order to get the next level of business in. Another person that is also dear to my heart because, like Cindy and Timothy, has been on my podcast is Olin Heidt, who is the COO and the co-founder of a company called LeadCrunch. LeadCrunch is also in the sales and marketing business, really focused on helping organizations get sniper focused with regards to lead generation, giving you leads and even appointments on a plate. But I'll leave that further to explain later on to Olin. And last but not least, Len Giorgio, who is the president of a company, who's president at a company called RL Datix, a company from Toronto, Canada. That's a company that's on the forefront of patient safety and in the technology space as well. So all people that are seasoned with regards to technology, building companies, been around for a couple of years, and these are actually the perfect people to ask the question, how do you survive today and thrive post-corona? So I want to get directly into the first topic, which is exactly the topic that's on the screen here, surviving the short term. And I got a question for the audience. Just if you want to think about this for a minute, if you think about the one word or the two words, how do you feel about the next 6 months and the outlook for your business, the business that you're responsible for, the business that you are working for? Think about that and put it into the chat. Just see what's coming in, which will prepare us at the end to get the conversation going. I'll wait for a couple of seconds. See what is coming in. High energy, good. And that proves a lot what the session is going to be about. Anyone else? Well, if we'll see that coming in later on. Maybe we'll pick up on that later on. So yeah, I mean, talking about surviving the short term, every organization has to deal with their customers, and a lot of organizations around the world have been in tough times. And what I've seen, and what I was reading one of the blogs from LeadCrunch, is typically something that if you ask the question, survive today and thrive tomorrow, you think about growing and about, of course, about selling as well and preparing yourself to come out better. But one of the things that struck me from one of the blogs that Olin wrote for his company, it said, bottom line, this is not the time to sell. This is the time to provide support and to build trust, which was really intriguing to me. Olin, can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, I think that I wrote that at the beginning of the COVID outbreak in the United States. And at that time, everybody was in, excuse me, in shock.
Yeah.
I think that we've moved past that shock, and now we are in the second stage, which I would call denial. And the next stage will be anger. And as you can tell, I'm using the metaphor of the 7 stages of death to describe how people are reacting to the pandemic. Globally, many millions of people have lost their jobs, their businesses have gone out, a lot of businesses have gone away. Mark Cuban, who's a famous American entrepreneur, said, we are moving from America 1.0 to America 2.0. And that means America 1.0 is going to metaphorically die, and it's going to be replaced with something new and different. And I believe that's true globally. So when I wrote that, we were in the stage where it was very inappropriate to sell, because obviously some people would feel like we were being opportunistic, and we would never want to be opportunistic at other people's misery. And so I think that has changed. Now people are starting to look at, how do we get back to work? How do we start to build this new economy? And it is emerging very rapidly. Yeah. We have seen our business change dramatically. It's actually increased in volume, but the type of business that we're getting is different than it was, say, 6 months ago. So I would say that the most important thing right now for all companies is to be good citizens and act in trustworthy ways. And I still hold that the trust is the absolute most important thing a company can build. But it is starting to open up, and I think that it is time for people to start selling, and it's time to do it in a way that's smarter and maybe more compassionate than what was done before.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. That's the way I see it here from Europe as well. I mean, of course, the timing was different, but I see also that companies are going through different phases and starting to get less, less focused on what they believed before, and now trying to get back to normal again. But to hand the microphone to Cindy in this case, if you look at what has happened over the last 8-9 weeks. With COVID entering our space, how do you compare your business now compared to 8 weeks ago? And more important, possibly, if anything has changed, what have you changed strategically in order to make that make that more profound to you?
Thanks, Tone, and dear guests and my esteemed colleagues. I think first and foremost is that we've had more reflection time. We've had time, I think, to step back and think in different ways, because now we just couldn't, to Olin's point, get the same kinds of people we had hoped in at least through the March and April, but things are opening up again now that we're into May, and we're seeing more buoyancy. But so we also stepped back and did a new branding strategy to tighten up our go-to-market messages. We started to plan now website upgrades, so very concrete operational aspects. We also invented some new capabilities in our software because I had more thinking time, and so did Malay and our engineers. So we'll be releasing a new layer that's all around coaching insights. And because we do see that obviously there'll be more work from home, we'll continue to be highly more virtualized, and managers may even have less time than they had before. So, I think that real-time coaching that gives insights to drive successful outcomes is going to be very key. And I think the last point is the collaboration. You have to, like Olin, there's a real sensitivity before you engage. I was talking just yesterday to a senior partner at a major tier 1 private equity firm. And in the past, and I'm a former VC or an investment banker, nobody started off the call talking about your health first.
True.
And when we did that, I stepped back and I thought, oh my, if we've got the private equity market becoming more sensitive and, like Olin said, more compassionate, I just hope it stays. It was really a refreshing experience.
That's indeed something that I see as well. How about you, Len? What have you seen changing over the past 8 weeks in RL Datix, and what have you changed in the meantime?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. So we're in patient safety, directly deal with healthcare organizations worldwide. We have 3,300 customers, mostly in the United States, but RL was a company before a merger with Datix that was largely embedded in the United States market, and Datix a large market share in the UK and many clients outside of that. And essentially, we've been providing significant support for healthcare staff around COVID in the past 8 weeks, in terms of helping them with utilizing additional modules, software modules they may not have used in the past. So we have an infection module that we've provided for free for clients that don't have that. Safety huddles to ensure that there's due diligence done to avoid further accidents, if you will, right, or incidents for both patients and healthcare staff who are very risk in risky situations. And essentially, we've actually, even though there's been focus on addressing and the healthcare needs for patients, we have seen significant growth in our business beyond all the free modules we've provided.
That's good news. Growth, of course, means some thrive and some suffer a little bit from it. And you see that different organizations do different things with that. But one of the things, by the way, that I want to address now as my next topic here is that when I was speaking to CEOs around the world, a couple of the conversations was, for example, with Cindy as well. What I saw at the end was that even though certain industries were possibly hit more than others by COVID, sometimes, of course, there were still areas that were becoming more relevant than others, simply because of shifting priorities. So one of the things that I've been discussing a lot with my tribe is, where to focus, where not to focus, and what to change positioning-wise as well to become more relevant in this time. Because with all the news going over, a lot of people also get sort of a noise filter. And one of the things that reminded me of inviting, in this case, Timothy to this show was my interview with Timothy from Aerobotics. And the story we had back then, which is also part of my book, The Remarkable Effect, was around segmentation. And what was actually boiling up in preparation for this show, Timothy, was the question: has your approach and your sniper focused segmentation that you started the company on, has this turned out to be the right choice for you? Can you elaborate a little bit on that? And how has it paid off for you in this time?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. I think for us, it's been critical to focus on two things over the past year, and both have really paid off for us, during this time. The first one has been that we've always had a focus on citrus farmers. James Patterson, who founded the business, Aerobotics, grew up on a citrus farm, and his dad's a citrus farmer. So it's always been a very close to home topic, and one that we've been solving for. So for instance, in the last year, we've released, in addition to our orchard monitoring product, a new product that helps citrus farmers estimate their yield. So we're actually looking at counting fruit using drones. And what we found is that as you've come into a situation like this one with COVID, farmers are looking at ways that they can automate and that they can, I suppose, bring on social distancing technologies such as drones onto the farm. And a lot of the relationships which we built up for a long period of time, are paying off now, because we're a trusted advisor and supporter of those farmers. So I think that's the first one. And then the second one is we also work very closely with insurance companies in the US specifically, in helping them get metrics for their perennial crop grows. And again, COVID has restricted the amount of, or how they're able to move their employees around, and we've been able to come in and really support them with making better decisions and doing it quicker than they were even previously able to do, in the new normal. So I think being very focused on these sectors or these segments for the last year has really paid off at this time, and our business has really benefited from building that trust and those relationships with these individuals.
Yeah, I mean, I actually want to dig in a little bit further on that, because when we did the interview for the podcast, that was back in 2018, I think. It's already some time ago. One of the things that I found remarkable was that you sort of went counterintuitive, where the market for the crop market, farming market and crops is extremely large, and you went for like a sub-segment of that, or like almost 10%. And what it helped you to do was become highly specialized, and as a consequence, far more relevant to them. I mean, has that relevance and being so specialized, has that paid off for you?
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, initially we selected perennial crops, so tree crops as the crop type, and even within that crop type, we've become even more focused. So, for instance, like we only work with mainly citrus growers and nut growers, rather than just sort of any perennial crop. So for instance, we don't work with vegetable farmers and certain other tree crops and wine grapes and those kind of things. We're very focused on certain crop types within, and every time we've taken a step to almost reduce our target audience because of the ability that's given us to specialize. We've seen growth come directly from that, and even the growth with our insurance aspects has actually come through that, because we've built such great capabilities for these farmers. We're able to share those insights with the insurers, and they're super valuable. So we've definitely gone away from like a one-size-fits-all approach, and tried to be sniper focused, as you put it.
Yeah, I mean, that's of course what you typically see. If the market is shrinking, you tend to go wider rather than more focused. And this is exactly an opportunity to do that, where relevance starts to count. I mean, switching to Cindy again. You've built an AI business that helps sales professionals be more focused, as I already told in the introduction. Do you think, because AI at the end is still in its infancy for a lot of companies, do you think that AI adoption rates will increase post-COVID? And what are you doing about it?
Well, I'm sure Olin will have some views on this, but I'll just quickly dive in. First of all, what's really been interesting is following the market researchers. Gartner just released in April a report acknowledging that if companies are not applying AI in sales enablement, they likely will not survive. So it's all around edging. So I'm finding the market researchers are really pushing the knowledge into the industry at an accelerated pace. So, I mean, I just read this literally again yesterday preparing for this. So I think that's one important factor. We've been in the market for some time, and we find that the buyers are usually the high innovators. They've got good data sound practices, and you know, so I do believe, to your point, Tone, that COVID is in many ways is going to help people to think a little bit harder about their processes and their practices. The other market leader is Jim Dickey out in the market, who is at Sales Mastery, and he just released the Market Leaders in AI for Sales report, and we've been fortunate to be profiled in there for the last 2 years. But what's interesting is that the AI leaders all know one another, and I now know Ton, and I mean, you know, in terms I know all of you, and that's delightful. But what I'm also finding is that the AI leaders can help move the industry ahead. So I think we're going to see more collaboration, you know, across the different sectors, because we do need more GDP stimulation. And in many ways, people have to look beyond where they are in order to really strengthen the ecosystem. In terms of your last question, what we're trying to do to help our customers in the art of focus, well, I started this company on one premise, and that is that sales professionals suffer from attention deficit disorder. About 30% of them do. But the more alarming facts are, you know, the human condition in terms of attention has been dropping year over year, and we're down to attention and cognitive spans of less than 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you're into that art of focus and sniper precision, what's really, really key is that the AI enablements have to give you incredible value in real time. They can't be based on static assumptions in the models. So what we've been trying to do is to build the deepest insights that you can, because we know people now, even if you provide the analytical intelligence, they need insights in real time on their move. So in many ways, it's like, I think, playing chess. Should I increase my price? Yes or no? Should I, you know, follow this particular opportunity versus another? And give me not the odds, but why? So I can peel the onion back and become smarter. And now we see that there's an increased need, as I mentioned, for the coaching. So yeah, so I think it's an interesting time. I mean, McKinsey's been saying for, you know, about the last 3 years, if you don't start applying predictive AI and analytics, you're likely not going to survive. But now Gartner's really, really punching it up and making strong recommendations. So I'm hopeful, you know, that the speed will increase, and I do think, you know, all the ecosystem is, you know, really making an impact. It's just not us. I think it's all the players, and obviously, I think the other factor is all of us need to survive and grow, and that means I think a lot of market consolidation is going to play out.
Yeah, agree. And that's what's worth to be seen. But I mean, you can also get ahead of that. So what intrigues me at the end, the world has changed so rapidly. What took almost decades to we've been talking about digital transformation for so long, and it's all happened now in just a couple of weeks. Are there possibly any other things that used to work well that don't work anymore? I mean, Len, have you got any thoughts on that? What have you seen in your business?
Yeah, great question. So, you know, a lot of our business traditionally has been face-to-face. We deal with healthcare organizations that take a Delphi approach to make decisions, if you will. A lot of key stakeholders involved in the decision-making process, and it's a bit of old school, and rightly so. You know, to gain trust, they really demand that you're in face-to-face meetings. So we can't do that these days, and I don't see that occurring for the foreseeable future. So essentially, you know, there is a transformation in the behavior of a decision-making circle, in that virtual meetings will be you know, the reality for a long time to come, and we, you know, we're dealing with that, and it is a challenge, I have to say, because essentially, you know, they're all engulfed right now in addressing the pandemic, and at the same time, they understand that they need to move forward to enhance your patient safety infrastructure solutions that we provide. So again, it's not something that will be transformed overnight, as you can appreciate, but we do see that as a positive accomplishment in the future, because we've dealt with innovative healthcare organizations that understand the reality, but again, you do have a lot of old school around still.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure if that's helpful.
Yeah, that's helpful. I mean, I see
Yeah,
that as well.
I agree with both Cindy and what was just said. Is that, as Sheryl Sandberg said, is that these type of crises amplify inequalities.
Yeah.
And we all know that not all marketers or all salespeople are created equal. There's a big difference between the top performers and the average. And we can also look at it, as Cindy pointed out, between the innovators, the people that are first to adopt technology, and the laggards, the people that are last to adopt technology.
Yeah.
And we can measure that, the so-called technology life cycle adoption curve. That curve typically gets longer under periods of stability. In other words, the distance between the time distance between an innovator and a laggard naturally grows over time. Now, this pandemic has suddenly made a lot of the laggards go out of business. It's an existential threat. So to Cindy's point, you either adopt AI and start doing things differently, or you're going to go away. It's really that simple.
That's quite a statement. Do you see the same thing, Timothy?
Yes, and in our markets, focus is super important, and we've seen similar trends as well.
Okay, what I mean, kind of connected
one of the
to
things that we did, just to jump in, one of the things we did is one of the things that we did, just to kind of expand upon the point, is we decided to make a lot of our technology free. The analysts, when Gartner, Forrester, the analysts that cover the space start talking about AI, it's going mainstream. And so to help people, what we did is we exposed something called the COVID impact score. So you can go under our website, it doesn't cost anything, and you can put in your target market, and it will score how much that market will be impacted by the pandemic. And you can compare it to, say, the S&P 500, which is less impacted than, say, a small business. And the other tool that we brought out is a market analyzer, where you can simply go in and see how markets change. Because as Cindy pointed out, there's a very dynamic environment, and markets are changing, companies are changing, they are adapting. So what was an ideal customer fit last month might not be next month.
Yeah,
things change.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean with the whole segmentation topic. So from a go-to-market perspective, how has COVID changed your thinking about go-to-market? And second, is it kind of connected to that, how does it set you up to come out better? Cindy?
Thanks, Tone. I think I highlighted some of the points, in the sense of changing our thinking on go-to-market, in the sense that we're tightening up our branding and our messaging. We're diving deeper into the real-time coaching insights layer. We were pretty progressive in AI on a data completeness layer because we're very strong on the responsible AI front. We're doing more education like this. I think that's a really important aspect. When we find really good information around virtualization and collaboration, we're augmenting in our newsletters sort of support systems. I think the other thing is I am in touch with our top customers every single week, doing something that brings them value.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting, and it's not talking about us. It's not, trying to sell the next, even though it's in my mind. It's really just listening more, but finding things I know that will trigger where they will see value. So that we've intensified, because I think in COVID, you know, customers are being impacted, others are like crazy. We have one major client that's in logistics, and just they're growing like crazy right now. And then we have another client that's in the staffing business, you know, in terms of real-time staffing, and they're hurting like severely right now, because people aren't bringing in receptionists into their offices at work. Although you might think virtual's there, people are realizing that maybe they don't need an assistant to help them. They can really be closer. So, you know, everybody's being impacted. So I think those are the things that are changing a little bit in our, I call it our short-term approach. Obviously, our longer term is very much around leveraging these insights from different market researchers and getting more stories out to help the market move along. And I think the most important point is qualifying faster, faster, faster. And if they're not innovative and don't get it, we have to just move on. You just don't have the cycles when people aren't alert to this value. And, you know, some people just, you know, I think, Olin, you said they're the laggards, right? So that precision is very sniper focused in my mind right now, and I know on the teams.
Yeah. Well, you gave a real nice bridge, whether you knew about it or not, but to the next topic that I want to address here. And I think it's a good example of what you've started to do differently in order to create a completely different relationship with your customer. Olin was already talking about building trust. You're talking about adding value, bringing them value that they wouldn't even expect from you, but it's just caring about customers at the end. So what I also see is that slowing down creates new perspectives. So what makes me curious here is, what has COVID done to us, and has it opened our eyes in terms of the way we perceive value and how we drive decisions? Len, have you seen any change around that topic?
Yeah, thank you. First and foremost, the time for us was a pinnacle in that we've done several acquisitions in the past year, and slowing down actually gave us the opportunity to revisit and look ahead and assess what is the realization of our value to our customer base. And we're trying to embed ourselves in other verticals within patient safety and outside of that scope, governance, reliability, and risk, for example. And it enabled us to collaborate with all our new teammates. And, you know, we pretty well tripled the size of the company in the past year, and slowing down has enabled us to focus on what, you know, where we want to get to now, and enable us to unify ourselves and look at streamlining our processes and so forth, while concurrently doing things outside of our comfort zone that we've done in the past with our customers. Given the pandemic, we needed to support them to help them address this crisis. Yeah. So it's been transformative, and we're very blessed that we have the culture in place and the leadership in place to be able to you know, work through those capabilities. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Timothy, how is that for you out at Aerobotics? I mean, has anything changed to how your customers perceive value, what they expect from you, and how that drives the decisions for them?
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite an interesting one, because I mean, the way we traditionally you know, I suppose sell to our clients is relatively in person. Most farming relationships are built up on the farm. Yeah. And you know, you go door to door, and you effectively build up this trust on the farm. And doing things like a video call or something similar would just be completely out of mind for the industry. So we've had to adjust pretty quickly, and fortunately, everyone involved has actually been very open to this. So we've been doing a number of our client discussions via video call, which, you know, a few months ago we would have thought was unthinkable. And it's actually been very interesting for us as a business, because one of the biggest challenges is with farming communities, you know, extremely dispersed. How did we reduce the costs of having to visit all these farms, and how did we reduce the costs of trying to be the trusted advisor to the farmer, but not always be on site because that was expensive. And so by now going through this, I suppose, pandemic, and farmers kind of adjusting to being okay with a video call instead of an in-person meeting, has actually shown us that potentially, we can reduce a lot of our spend and still provide great service to our clients. So from that perspective, it's actually been quite a good opportunity for us to really pivot our sales strategy into something that we believe is more profitable going forward, if that makes sense.
Totally, yeah, exactly. I mean, you first have to get to see it, that it really works, and then, perceptions change.
It's something we've always talked about. It's something we've always talked about, and we've never been able to execute because we've always been too nervous, and then we were left with no other option. So we just had to go for it, and It's been pretty successful so far.
Yeah, well, I mean, talking about the value, and the value, of course, is in a way in terms of how you deal with your customers, but of course, a lot of the value is also coming from the product. And when I was doing my podcast interview with Olin a while ago, 2019, I believe it was, time is flying. What struck me is how LeadCrunch has created a transformative product, but did something extra in terms of also embedding the whole business model into the product as well to create defensible differentiation. Olin, you can better explain it than I do. What product did you take to market first, and what did you learn there? How did it evolve for you?
Well, we took a lot of products to market that failed before we found success, and we did find success. Inc. magazine is ranking us as one of the 100 fastest growing companies in the United States this year. Wow. We're the third fastest growing company in California. We first started off in a completely different vertical and a completely different use case, and that was in medical research. The name of the company was called Glue. And we discovered a solution to a problem no one cared about, and that's medical discovery. If you go and talk to research institutes, they really care about getting funding and publishing papers. And so we almost went out of business. We pivoted. I had done some work in national security, and we went and got a government contract. We beat Lockheed. Our customer is Lockheed Martin. We beat IBM Watson and Palantir to win a contract to build target verification systems for the United States Navy. And we didn't want to go to work every day and listen to acronyms and go at the pace of government. So we immediately started experimentation to find where can we apply targeting technology in a commercial environment that will scale very quickly. And we looked at a bunch of different use cases. When we got to B2B demand generation, we couldn't believe the state of the industry. And we looked at that there was more than something, I think at the time, there was something like $200 billion invested into thousands of MarTech companies. I think the most recent study, there's something like 8,000 MarTech companies. Mm-hmm. And collectively, they're generating less than something like $200 million of revenue. It's a disaster from an investment perspective. Yeah. And we thought, you know what, we're going to do something different. What we're going to do is, everyone else is selling subscriptions. We're not going to sell subscriptions. We're going to sell AI on demand. Everyone else is selling analytics and insights. We're going to sell campaigns. So we bridged the idea of being able to do high precision targeting with the idea of outreach to the right person at the right time with the right message. So we combined media with targeting, and we've grown over 5,000% in the last 3 years. And so our business model is our technology. We don't look at them as separate things. No. We're here to scale demand generation for enterprises. That's what we do.
Yeah, so you got something that is highly valuable to organizations, and you make it desirable because you actually sell an outcome to them. So it becomes sort of
yeah. And it's funny when we one of the things we did is we decomposed what McKinsey and Deloitte and some of these, we really have a lot of respect for these organizations. What were they doing in their sales transformation practice? And what we found is they all start off with, hey, give us a list of your best customers. So that's what we did. Take a list of the best customers, put it into an AI Our AI decomposes each customer into about 10,000 different dimensions. And then we identify what aspects of your best customers are different than the general market.
Yes.
And the greater the separation, the better the model. And then what we do is we test that model with advertising, telemarketing, email marketing, outreach. And we follow the signals. The things that work well, we do more of. The things that don't work well, we don't do. And so it's a self-learning AI that automatically improves and finds prospects that look just like your best customers and get those prospects on the journey to becoming a customer. None of that has anything to do with the subscription. None of that has to do with how great the data is or how great the AI is. We try to create a business model that marketers would understand intuitively from what they struggle with every day.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the reason why I bring this example up is because it's a lesson for everybody to look at. Okay, what is the problem you're really solving, and is that really the problem that your customer is putting top of their list? Because once you got this highly valuable problem and you solve it in a way that you can exceed expectations, that's where desire is created, and that's where things start to show by themselves. And I believe, going back to my earlier question in this particular section, that that whole perception of value, trust, has changed during COVID and will become more and more important. So they will start to see the separation between who really gets what needs to be done and those that don't. Let me see, time-wise, we're well underway. Cindy, question to you again. Looking at your business from where it started to where you are right now, what were any earlier decisions that appear to be really important for the success that you have right now in the time we're living in the changing market we're living in?
Okay, so changes recently?
Well, the recent change, but the decisions that you took earlier on that proved to be really important right now.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. So when we first came into the market, we were building out a product kind of like Insightly because we saw that simplification was everything. But to Olin's point, you basically, when you're in a saturated spot, you have to cut your losses. So, that in the first couple of years, I think we lost some momentum. So we stepped back and then we built out a platform that could ingest data sets and sales, but also pick up the marketing intelligence that's coming from, the on-demand systems to, really reclassify them quickly. Because the biggest issue is that the flows are in between marketing and sales and customer service. So I do see that there will be a lot of consolidation. So right now, we pick up the marketing, I call it, how they classify their leads, segmentation. And if they're using a lead qualification system, we'll look at that and then we'll re-index, because what the biggest signal that we found is on the historical win rates, in terms of knowing the patterns on the outcomes and then reverse engineer back. Now with COVID, Olin, good on you. It brings a whole other dimension because now you need an economic, weighted adjuster to the segments because the historical data is not going to have those patterns. Yeah. So you have to look ahead. So I think the reality is what do we do is you have to keep learning. You've got to stay focused, but you've got to be still agile. Yeah. And find good partners and good customers and be open. So it's kind of being focused, but not so focused that you can't reflect on what's possible.
Good point there. And that brings me to the last section that I want to highlight. Like we've been talking a lot about surviving and then moving a little bit already to this area. The thriving part, thriving post-COVID. I mean, at some point in time, hopefully it will go. Likely the world has changed and some things will stay and some things will be completely different for the rest of our life, possibly. So thriving post-COVID, I mean, I'm really interested in your strategies there. But to start off, Timothy, what has been you or for the company that you represent, what has been the biggest aha moment during this crisis?
Yeah, I mean that's that's a very interesting question, because I think there've been a couple for us. I mean, I think the one that I touched on earlier was that you know, there are other ways to sell. You know, as a management team, we'd always sort of believe that we have to be on the farm to win, and you know, now we're starting to see that maybe that's not true, and really starting to relook at, like, where, you know, how can we be smarter about how we use our resources and those things. And then I think the second one, you know, for us has just been that, you know, in our business, it's always been challenging to, I suppose, to implement new technology with specifically farmers, you know, and growers. They kind of have always done things the same way for a long time, and bringing in new technology is always a challenge. Yeah. But what we have seen during this period is people very open to new ideas and open to different ways of thinking. I mean, you know, we have operations in 10, you know, active operations in 10 countries around the world, and pretty much everywhere it's been the same scenario. We've seen accelerated adoption of our products, accelerated implementation, because people are looking to use technology. So, you know, in times of crisis, people actually do turn to technology to try and get through it, and they're more active in terms of using it. So I mean, we're looking forward to, obviously, the crisis being over, because you know, things can hopefully get back to normal. But in our minds, it's very much a new normal. You know, this idea of remote selling, still being able to create a trusted advised environment. And secondly, you know, this idea that technology will be implemented faster.
True, good points. What about you, Len? What has been the biggest aha moment for you or for the company, RLDatix?
Yeah. So, you know, I want to echo the sentiments that we just heard. Continued intensification of technology, especially on our marketing sales engine as a much larger team now. You know, we've been working with Sales Choice to in a proof of concept for the AI capabilities, and you know, what we like about these capabilities, that we can really you know, find needles in the haystack, if you will, right? Yeah. As an analogy, and it's been, you know, a really compelling proof of concept for us, especially as we try to expand the verticals within healthcare, and also manage a much larger sales team. So as a company in itself, yeah, again, the continuous evolution of adding value through technology, which is our core competence, obviously, is essential. But embedding AI in our tools is of essence. And I agree that if you're not in AI moving forward, you're not going to survive. So I mean, just as an example, we depend on nurses or physicians to report incidents. So a medication error or a lab issue gone wrong or surgery gone wrong. But our infection surveillance system is all real-time surveillance, right? To filter on and do, you know, penetration of contact tracing for patients, so the infections don't spread. You know, all the solutions in healthcare need to be at that level, and AI is going to be essential.
Yeah, good point there. Tells us something again about how important technology is going to be in this next phase. Another question that I'm curious to hear your views about, for example, Olen. What did you learn in this new phase about mindset as a CEO, but also as a mindset of the people in your company?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's a lot of uncertainty, and people deal with uncertainty in very different ways. let's talk about customers, because I think Cindy hit upon a really important point, and that is the real, I believe, and our company believes, highest use of AI is to actually enable people to do what they couldn't do otherwise. Yes. It's more of a collaboration tool between the human and the machine than it is the machine telling you what to do. It's giving you insights and giving you a way of doing your job better. I think that we're seeing a bifurcation, a separation between the curious that want to try new things and the stubborn who want to hold on to the past. And you know, the challenge for us is how to be true to our own values and do the best thing that we can do for the customer. And a lot of times, some of those customers just don't want to change. And we lost some customers that didn't want to change the way they were doing things, and we got some new customers that were very interested. I would describe them as being very curious. Regarding our internal team, you know, people deal with uncertainty in different ways. We've made a policy that no one needs to return to the office unless they feel safe and comfortable. We have a return to work plan, but we're not going to push people into that plan because in our area, we are based in San Diego, California. It's very unclear when the schools are going to reopen. A lot of people don't have access to childcare because the childcare systems have been shut down. Yeah. My wife and I are both working from our home, and we are guardians of our nieces and nephews. And I can tell you that it's changed a lot of people's personal lives. And to the point, I think I'm giving Cindy a lot of credit here. She pointed out how people are more reflective now. Yeah, and I think that it's really important to now more than ever to read the temperature of the room. In other words, understand your audience and where they are in this time of uncertainty so that we can communicate more effectively with them and enable them to take the right journey for where they are and where they need to go.
Very good point. Yeah, I mean, one question that sort of comes from here, Cindy, to you in this case. So based on the aha moments, the mindset that you've seen changing, where do you put strategic priority? So what are your bets?
Oh, okay. Just going to kind of free flow on this point. I think first point is each customer counts, and you need to create memorable, sustaining moments. And that's not going to come from what you do. It's going to be thinking beyond. So that's asking about their health, asking about their family balance. When you've got, you know, your top accounts, at least because we're still emerging, they're all friends. And that nurturing, I think we know from, and history shows that communities hold up businesses. Yep. Businesses don't hold up themselves. And I think that kind of brings back this compassion concept, think, and incredible positivity. I don't think there's any more excuses not to be healthy. So to me, the team needs to be healthy. They need to be strong. They need to feel that they can take a break when they need to. I mean, if you are in a condo, right? We've got engineers, right? Or they're, you know, 3 engineers in a house. They need to know that we care about their health. You know, I just had an email come in from one of our engineers saying his grandmother just passed away, right? And we all know COVID's impacting people in retirement homes, although, you know, they brought her home, you know, as COVID was hitting, but she did just pass away. And he said, I can't come to the meeting today. I'm sorry. Tomorrow, I'll try and go to work. And I just sent back a message 2 seconds ago saying, take today off, take tomorrow off, take all the time you need off, you know, grieve. And so I think you know, I think, Olin, you use the word compassion. I honestly think that's our strategic priority right now, because everybody's at a different cycle in coming at COVID. So it's like you almost have to think, where is this industry in relationship to COVID? Where is this industry or this customer? And, you know, that reflection and deeper thinking. And we do have a bit more time, but at the same time, we do need to have the speed. So it may be that, if you're selling into the US, and you may not want to sell to New York, LA and California have been very thoughtful, right? So you really need to think about your health. So, I still think we're working through it, everyone, in terms of our bets, but it's making sure our current customers are strong, and obviously that strong cultural fit. One of the new aspects we're still testing out in AI, but I think it's an interesting one, because you can do everything that we've talked about here, but you might still not have the right person with the right values and the communication patterns to communicate to that particular profile. So AI can actually make sure that you've got a buyer and a seller fit. And that to me is very, very interesting, because I know for me, you probably can pick up, I'm a high expressive. I like to tell stories, but I'm a deep thinker, so I'm a bit of a right and left brain. But do I ever get bored quickly myself if someone cannot tell a story? So, so I think, going to your point, your bets is you got to find the right customers, cut to the chase, and not lose sight of that compassion. And it's deeper, and it's got to be authentic. People, are uncannily perceptive. And there was some just recent research I was reading on AI that in terms of, will robots be as creative and curious as humans are? And it's a long ways off, because what we can do as humans, if I see your eyes, and I know there's technology that's trying to classify, but often eyes are the most insightful aspect to our souls. So I'll just pause on that point.
Yeah, you made a perfect bridge to, almost the finalizing words for this online event that we're holding today. Yeah, beautiful thoughts here, and absolutely key ingredients to be remarkable in the next phase. Key takeaways, call to action. What I found myself, but possibly you can chip in on this. Like, what is a key takeaway that you took from this call? I'll start. For me, what I've heard you talking about is that having the right customers is key. Being there for your customers, have helpful conversations, not about yourself, but about helping them and solving their problems is going to be even more important going forward than maybe it was in the past. And that will help companies to stand out. Anything from your end, Olin? A key takeaway or a call to action that you would say?
Yeah, I look at it a little differently. I would say, am I the right vendor for a customer rather than are they the right customer for me? Because that's a way I can.
Good point.
It just helps me learn more about my company, what we're doing, and how we fit into an organization. We're still a startup. We're still growing. We're still at that stage of learning. So I think what I've learned out of this is I think it's really remarkable that we got people from all over, leaders from all over the world. And what I'm hearing is happening in South Africa certainly resonates with what's happening here.
Yeah. Anything from your end, Timothy? What is your key takeaway and a call to action that you say, hey, this is what I'm going to do next?
Yeah, I think for us the key takeaway, everybody's initially been very concerned about the virus and how it's going to impact business. And for us, it's actually been a time of reflection and an opportunity to look at our business and really decide how we want to move forward.
Yeah.
And try out some new strategies. So I think for us, these have been like sort of key takeaways and things that we continue to look at, is almost using this as an opportunity to double down on things that we can control and reflect on things that we can't, I suppose.
Yeah, very good point. Anything from your end, Len, as a final one?
Yeah, thank you. I'm a firm believer that of the famous Fleming quote, Deming quote, culture eats strategy for breakfast. This is a time where it's a tremendous calling for leadership to ensure that if they don't embed the right culture during difficult times like this to come out of it stronger, And the focus is not on ensuring that we support and show compassion for our staff and our customers. Many companies that don't take a really good culture approach, I believe, will not survive. So great discussion, good learnings for me today. Thank you so much.
Well, it was a pleasure. I mean, knowing that we are on top of the hour, I want to make a quick plug for the webinar that is actually continuing on the same story next week. Next week, it's going to be more focused around creating momentum. It's all about momentum, this the show is called. We have guests, again, remarkable leaders there. Mark Organ, founder and chairman of a company called Influitive, and also the founder of Eloqua. Maybe some people in the audience that know that company from the past. Of course, Cindy is going to be part of the story again. Then we have another guest from the UK, Sachin Devdugal, who is the CEO and co-founder of a company called Builder, helping people realize ideas and thereby getting away from the typical, very difficult process of developing software, making this as easy as ordering a pizza, as he calls it. And last but not least, Roland Hallebeek, who is the CEO and co-founder of a company called Scotty Technologies from the Netherlands, who is really helping organizations to scale the very important channel that they have inside the business or incoming, which is a whole channel of voice coming in and dealing with that. So if you haven't subscribed for that, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time on week. And I want to hand over now to Malay after thanking you for being online today and being part of this conversation.
Thank you, Tone, and absolutely fantastic discussion today. So thank you to our panelists, Len, Olin, Cindy, Timothy, and Tone for facilitating this engaging discussion. I would like to sign off by sending out an invite virtually to everyone to our Predictive AI World Forum. Which is a place, a pretty fantastic platform for you to find a lot of resources, webinars, podcasts, white papers, blogs in the domain of AI and sales and how you can grow leveraging technology, particularly in this climate. You're invited to check it all out at saleschoice.com/resources. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors, CATA, the Canadian Advanced Technology Alliance, IT World Canada, the Bedford Consulting Group /Transearch, and of course, Value Inspiration and Ton himself. You can contact either of us at email addresses that you'll be receiving in an email shortly after this webinar. So look out for that. It will also carry a link to the registration for our next week's webinar. So thank you once again. Thank you everyone for joining here, our audience, our panelists, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Have a great day.
I think that's it.